G'day. Welcome inside the TCA studio one more time in beautiful Bytown, Canada. Matt Robinson with you as always. And this is the last time for a week or two. Finally, as I have been trying to do here for a little while, making my way down to the cottage on Friday morning. Thought I was going about a week ago. Some things came up, didn't really pan out. Only managed to get down there for like 36 hours or something around Canada Day. But we are peacing out of here on Friday morning and gone for at least a week and a half, a little bit more than that, maybe back, maybe off. We'll see. But for at least the next, 11 or 12 days, we'll be doing shows from the cottage like we end up doing most of the summer. That means very little in-person guest. It means we start to lean hard on our online guests. I can tell you already, next week I have touched base with our buddy Bunda for what he and I have grown to both enjoy for fairly obvious reasons. Cottage to Cottage podcasts, as he is also off next week, and we can sit down and have a beer and talk shit and do it all without leaving the deck, right? So that's sort of the plan as we sit here right now. The shows will keep coming. I can't tell you exactly in what order. And if I'm being real with you, as I sit here on Thursday evening about 7:15 p.m., I don't know what's happening on Monday morning. I have not yet found somebody to take that. It's a hard sell in July to ask somebody, hey, you want to disappear from whatever nice Sunday afternoon thing you're doing and come have a chat. Now, if the environment is still being choked and no one wants to be outside, that might make it a little bit easier. As long as the entire world still smells like campfire, maybe I'll have a shot at it. But as of right now, I have had several people say, yeah, open to coming back on, open to doing a show online, open to helping you out at the cottage. Just not necessarily Sunday afternoon. So at the moment, I don't know what the Monday morning show will look like. I can't even promise there will be a Monday morning show, but we'll see. I will continue to work at it and see what we can come up with. Until then, and just in case it's going to be a couple of days until the next one, we'll have a chat here. And there are a few, for July, we'll call it good-sized news bits, as both Major League Baseball and the National Hockey League have announced their schedule on the same day, which is weird. One of those things starts in like 2 months. One of those things starts in 8 months, if it's going to start at all next year. We'll get into some of that here in just a moment. Just to put it out there, just to hold myself accountable a little bit, just to not have to get a gambling app, just to not have to lay down any kind of money. Let me make a bet with you, good listener, right now. As I sit here and record this, it is 7:22 p.m. And at 9 p.m., the diaper-wearing Orange Goblin, a little bit south of us, is supposed to go out on television. And most people suggest that he's going to, relitigate his now 6-year-old grievances about the election that was stolen from him and this sorts of nonsense. And there's a chance he may try and start some really, really scary shit as it pertains to the American democracy and the elections coming up and all these sorts of things. I don't want to get into it too much right now. What I do want to say, as far as this bet goes, as far as getting on the record somewhere that won't cost me any money, this guy, at some point in his address on Thursday evening, which you will have all heard, or at least heard the gist of by the time you're hearing this on Friday, will reference the Canadian wildfires, the irresponsible Canadian... Because right now it's a pretty hot topic online, isn't it? A lot of people with a lot of opinions on how to handle $1.2 billion acres of boreal forest. Like, I guess you're just supposed to drive a fire truck up to it or something. It's making my head hurt. A lot of people are pissed. A lot of his stupider friends in Congress and in the Senate and, Michigan politicians and whatever else are starting to talk about sanctioning Canada and bombing Canada in some cases and taking control and this is why Canada should be annexed. I guess it would be better if these were American-made fires on American property. No one would mind the smoke then. I don't really get what the thing is supposed to be. But if the experts are correct that he's going to say something incredibly fucked up and unpopular, likely illegal, in his Thursday night address, or at least start to pave the way there, even if not going all the way yet, he will have an easy target in Canada to distract and to make sure that all his mitten stringer followers have some other villain to focus on, something else to point at, something else to be angry at. Blame Canada for the fact that it's a little smoky right now and ignore what we're doing over here to your country. Just wanted to get on the record with that. You'll be able to know before you even hear this whether I was correct or not. And I'll be surprised in a very big way if there is not a sizable, flabby elbow thrown at Canada at some point on Thursday evening. That out of the way. The Detroit Red Wings threw an elbow here this week. I'm honestly surprised. Not because it wasn't warranted, but just because I didn't think they would have the balls to do it yet. And the Detroit Red Wings have... there's some funny language in the press releases here about stepping down, about moving to be a consultant. But Steve Yzerman has been fired. You don't want to call it that because it's Steve Yzerman. How many times have we talked about that lately? The Leafs hire Matt Sundin. Careful. There's some landmines involved with that. Daniel Alfredson getting brought into the Sens. How do we paint his departure? Be delicate here. Be careful. Steve Yzerman, they were careful, as they could be, that he's going to step away. But he will consult with the Ilitch family on hiring his replacement. There is no language here. I see some people trying to paint it as he's getting a promotion to consult with ownership. That's not a promotion. You already consult with ownership when you're the president and general manager. When you're running the show, you get to talk to ownership, and then you get to make the decision. And now you get to talk to ownership, and you get to make no decisions. In no way is that a promotion. It's just everybody trying to play nice on their way out. And this is that door that, like I mentioned, we keep running into. Be careful when you hire a franchise legend, because if he's shit at his job, and even if he's not, like Joe Sakic, I think we would all agree in Colorado, has not been shit at his job. But nobody lasts forever. And when it comes time, in a couple of years, 5 years, I don't know how long it'll be, when Cale Makar, Nate McKinnon, and all these guys start to age out, and the salary cap has ravaged their team because Cale Makar is now making $22 million. At some point, this will go downhill, and they will have to fire Joe Sakic, who, like I said, has thus far been good at his job. But there is a day that comes. And when that day comes, they won't fire him. He will step down. They will mutually part ways. Sakic will consult with ownership from his couch in Palm Beach or wherever he chooses to retire when this is all said and done. So it is the most recent, most present example of how this shit can blow up in your face. Because Steve Yzerman was incredibly well regarded when he left Tampa Bay. And a lot of people thought that he had done an incredible job with that franchise. And I'm not here to say he hasn't. But what I would say is that the guy who was working with him while they were having all this success and building up in Tampa Julien Brisebois. That guy replaces Steve Yzerman when Yzerman goes home to Detroit. The Red Wings haven't played a single playoff game since Yzerman arrived there. And the Tampa Bay Lightning immediately started winning Stanley Cups. So, and I mean immediately in 2020 and in 2021, and they go back to the final in 2022. And I'm not necessarily saying Steve Yzerman is a fraud and that was all Julien Brisebois, but I am saying it sure looks like Julien Brisebois was, deserved more credit at the time than what he was getting. Too much, perhaps, was going to Yzerman. And the Red Wings have had some bad luck since Yzerman got there. They've had some really shit finishes, which should entitle you to some higher draft picks. And they have quite notably had, horrible luck in the draft lottery, always being pushed down. But because they've been so bad, they trade away a lot of things and at the deadline, and they get picks. They have had a pile of first and second round picks over the last 5 or 6 years. And there's just no indication that there's anything coming. Like Lucas Raymond is a very good player. Obviously, Mo Seider is a very good player. But there's just not anywhere near enough of these guys. Simon Edmondson is a good player. There's just nowhere near enough of these guys. And every time he thinks it's time to take a step forward, he does something stupid, like go and sign Jeff Petrie or go and trade a first-round pick for Justin Falk. These are not wise moves. I don't think there's a case you can point at here that says, this isn't fair. They needed to give Steve Yzerman more time. I think it was time. I think there's no case to be made that he's done a good job. And as complicated as it is, when you're a Red Wings legend, they had to do the difficult thing here, and they did it. Now, I was caught off guard. I thought if they had let him, if this was going to happen, I assumed this would happen on April 20th or whenever the season ended for them, to let him run your draft lead up and your draft and your free agency and all that kind of stuff suggests to me that this wasn't really the plan. They didn't expect to fire him. The Dylan Larkin of it all is fascinating. It's fairly well reported on that perhaps Dylan Larkin, their captain who recently asked for a trade, didn't have a great relationship with Steve Yzerman, dating back to them making him wait a couple of years to be named captain after Henrik Zetterberg left. Perhaps the 2023 contract negotiations didn't go all that smoothly. Whatever the case may be, the Dylan Larkin trade request creates a really interesting story here that I'll be fascinated to watch play out. Because back around Canada Day, we watched Zach Werenski ramp up quick. Yeah, I probably won't re-sign here. I would be open to a trade to I really want to trade right now, to okay, you're traded to Dallas. No, I don't want to go there. And then by the end of the day, it's all just reeled right back in. None of this ever happened. He's going to stay, all of this kind of stuff. I don't know if you can do that with Dylan Larkin, because I see a lot of people online talking about, now that Yzerman's gone, does he rescind the trade request? Was a big part of his problem. He didn't like his boss. He didn't like the guy in charge. And it was time to go. I don't like the moves you've made to now. I've already given my opinion on Dylan Larkin's angle on all of this, even if it was that he didn't like Steve Yzerman. You are not good enough to pull this shit. You had one goal in the last, one 5-on-5 goal in the last 20 games of the season while the team collapsed around you, and you're the fucking captain. Then you show up and ask for a trade and only offer up 3 teams you're willing to go to. Yeah, go fuck yourself, man. But I do wonder now, if Yzerman's gone, if that was a big part of his issue, would he be willing to stay? Can you paint it as, this is where it gets hairy. Over the summer, I had some time to talk to my family, and I'm you're not going to, he's never ever just going to come right out and say, yeah, Steve Yzerman sucks. Franchise legend, sorry Red Wings fans, I hate that guy. And now that he's gone, I'm willing to stay. And it would be a mighty lift for the PR department to have to try and rephrase. I don't know what you do other than what I just said, which everyone would immediately see through. Because it's already been reported that you wanted the trade. The media immediately got a hold of the 3 teams you were willing to go to. The media immediately got a hold of, when those trades didn't happen, you opening it up to a 4th or a 5th team. Everyone sort of has followed the story and knows what's happened here. You are leaving. And the fans have sort of kicked the shit out of him for it, and I'm okay with that. Like I said, I think the way he's handled this has been garbage. I don't think he's as good as Red Wings fans always said. As soon as he wasn't theirs anymore, they started to agree he wasn't that good. That sounds a little familiar. It has a bit of an echo to it around the nation's capital. That's a story for a different day. Would the fan base of the Detroit Red Wings be okay with him changing his mind? Or has he burned that bridge behind them? I think, especially when he wears the C on his jersey, it's tough to walk back in and say, hey guys, I'm still here. Oh yeah, no, I changed my mind over the summer, fans. I'm thrilled to still be here. I don't know how you... I certainly understand why people are going point A to point B. If he didn't like Steve Yzerman and Steve Yzerman is gone, maybe he's now willing to stay. I don't know if it's going to be that easy to walk back. A lot of stones got thrown around pretty quickly in a way that I'm not sure happened with Zach Werenski. Don't get me wrong, Columbus fans were mad as well. But he wasn't the captain. It didn't play out as long. It did burn hot for a day or so, but it didn't last as long. I don't know if they can walk this back. I don't know if and again, I don't know that he wants to. Maybe there was more to it than Steve Yzerman. But this is just a commentary on, in my opinion, people making it a little too simplistic. That, well, Stevie's gone, maybe Larkin wants to stay now. I don't know. The schedule in the NHL did come out today. I wanted to touch briefly, and just very briefly, on the video that the Sens did. Because most teams now do some sort of unveil video, right? And some of them are better than others. And it's not just across the NHL. The high watermark, the one that I always think of, is our buddy Joshua O'Connor and the hot R1s that he did with the unveiling of the Red Black schedule here several years ago. That was fantastic. And honestly, some of them this year in the NHL had very little to do with actually talking about the schedule, but look, some are better than others. The reason I want to bring up the Sens one is because I did think it was interesting. It was a different approach. It probably didn't properly land for me because it's supposed to be like a spoof on like a reality show. I don't know, the real media personalities of the nation's capital, or like one of these sorts of things, the reunion special, an airing of grievances. And I guess to start, there was this whole thing, and it seems to always center around Claire Hanna. And she was the voice on Wednesday, I believe it was. Maybe Tuesday, but I believe it was Wednesday. It doesn't matter. Earlier this week. If those of you who care about such things already saw this. And she was sort of charged with doing the teaser, right? Like the trailer for what was coming up. And as is almost always the case now, there is a group of troglodytes who, whenever they see Claire Hanna, can't help but be just complete shit heaps. And I have very little time to continue talking about those people. It's the ones that are supposed to be a little bit more straight-laced. It's the ones that are supposed to understand what's happening here a little bit more. Because there's a line in the trailer, again, as they're teeing up that they're going to do this reality show spoof to unveil their schedule. She does use the line, pale, male, and stale, right? Which is one of those lines. It's kind of funny, but it gets thrown around basically for a term for out of touch old white dudes who always get the jobs or who always get what. This is an age old debate now that people have in terms of well, whatever, being a privileged white dude, and it's a reasonable enough debate. The pale, male, and stale, I was going to say is reasonably new. I should say it's reasonably new to me. I have heard it before this video. I don't know, I've heard it for a while, but for all I know, the cool kids have been using it since like 2015, and and it's just taken that decade to get to me. But the people in the replies with a straight face saying, this is offensive, this is prejudice for her to just rule out an entire, whatever, an ethnicity of white people, or all males are boring or whatever. You would never let this go the other way. And you're like, and I saw one, and this is the one that has set me off here a little bit. I can't believe Claire Hanna would just go rogue on an official Sens page. And you're like, you shouldn't believe that. This is done by the team. This isn't even her working on her own Twitter platform or for TSN. The Sens had the final edit on this. This isn't live. Just because you've just now this second clicked on it on Twitter, you think it's live just for you? Probably not. If she had gone rogue, the team probably would have edited this out. But instead, if you are dumb enough to believe that she meant this sincerely and that every white man is a piece of shit, or whatever we're using in these replies, your rage should be with your team, not with Claire. Things clearly scripted. She was clearly invited to do it. Why are you still mad at Claire? First of all, like I said, it's not real. But if it is, can you at least get your target of your rage correct? Anyway, people were pissed at this, but I think people just like to be pissed at Claire now, and that's weird to me a little bit. But on Thursday, they actually did the video, and I will be fair. I think I just didn't get it. It didn't land for me. I will say, kudos to everyone involved. Like, they had Creech from TSN 1200. They had Wally and Graham Nichols from Coming in Hot. They had Bruce Garriock from Post Media. They had Dean and Gord, like, doing the, from the play-by-play team, all doing their sort of segments of this and spoof. There were other people involved, certainly, as well. But everybody seemed to engage, right? And everybody really seemed to enjoy trying to do it and really leaned into it. Like, there was no one there who was clearly like, I'm above this or I'm too cool for school. Like, so it was fun in that element to see people, I'm here. Let's do this. Let's try and have a little fun with this, and I'll do my part, and I'll play my act or whatever it was. So, like, kudos to everybody involved. I think a significant part of it is just, I've never, ever, ever been a reality TV guy of almost any kind. I think I watched most of season 1 of Survivor. So what are we talking about? Summer 99, summer 2000, something like that. It's not too much later than that they start Big Brother. And I was like, that's kind of an interesting one. I might be more into that, like the in-the-house thing as opposed to the outdoor crazy island challenges or whatever. I know I didn't get to the end of season 1 of that. These things, they just aren't for me. And they've tried them all over the place in sports. I know there's the crazy housewives of this or whatever. We don't need to go through them all. Love Island, I guess, now is a big one that my sister tells me is on every night. I don't get how that works. Anyway. So I think there was almost certainly a bunch of references in this Sens video that just went over my head. So like I said, I enjoyed the dynamics of it. I enjoyed watching the personalities have some fun with it. I think it's better when teams take a swing at it and try and do something big, try and do something different. I've got no beef with anybody with that. I think there was just some weird stuff that didn't land properly for me. Now, there were some cool little Easter eggs in there. Like Bruce Garriock in particular, he at some point has to pretend to be offended. And all of this is on the Ottawa Senators YouTube page if you missed it. But he has to pretend to be upset or offended at something and kind of have the elephant tears. And he kind of makes his line is, I think I need like a change of scenery, and he's in like tears. And that's in the background. They show the Florida Panthers footage. Like, that's that's a well-thrown jab. Like, that's a fun element, playing on the Brady Tkachuk of it all and all that kind of stuff. So, kudos to everyone for taking a shot at it. And I will say that based on all the negative energy underneath the trailer the other day, I didn't see almost any of that under the actual production. I saw most fans seem to enjoy it, or at least enjoy it for what it was supposed to be, or the spirit of it. So it did seem to land for most people, and maybe it just didn't for me, and that's fine. Most things these days are not for Matt. But it was fascinating to see how quickly the mood changed from, it's Claire Hanna and she uses the phrase male, pale, and stale, and this is all going to suck. You're all so woke, fuck you. To the next day, I'm like, that was pretty funny. That was pretty good. The wind changes fast. Just ask, most of Ontario and Michigan and New York and Minnesota and Ohio and New Jersey. Anyway, you can ask a lot of people. The wind can change fast. So good on them for that. I didn't see a lot of the other ones. The Winnipeg Jets did one that was supposed to be like a spoof on Letterkenny. It wasn't bad. The Leafs did one where it was stuff that was kind of left behind from last season. Like, are we supposed to send this stuff back? And it's all what you'd like. It's wings from Buffalo, and it's steamers or steams or whatever the hell they call them from Montreal. They're the hot dogs, and like just silly things like that. And then they do, as kind of a jab to the Sens, which was funny enough, I guess. They pull out like this microphone attached to a boom arm for Brady. Like, oh, do we have to send this to Florida now? And they slap the Panthers down logo over the Senators logo on the box. So it was all right. Some interesting notes, though, in the schedule itself. I think most people were aware that the season was starting a little earlier this year. Part of that is that it's going to an 84-game schedule. But that is just 2 extra games. And even last year, when we took like over a 2-week break for the Olympics, the season still started in the first week of October. Even the year before that with the Four Nations, which wasn't quite as long, but it was a sizable break in the schedule. So it's interesting to see them push this back into September, just barely. I can't remember, it's 28th or 29th is opening night of September, just to accommodate 2 extra games. I wonder if they are trying to push back a little bit, get started a little bit earlier, maybe to get finished up a little bit earlier. But it was interesting to me just in the sense that they've gone from 82 games to 84 games. And for the first time in 3 seasons now, there hasn't needed to be a big international break. And we're still starting earlier than we have in quite some time. There's a couple little quirky things. Like the Florida Panthers don't play a home game against an Eastern Conference team until November. And they don't play a home game against an Eastern Conference team not called the Detroit Red Wings until November 21st. Which is weird. And there's always little quirks like that. The Leafs are tied for the league lead in length of road trip, like longest road trip. They have a 7-game road trip. The Sens open up their season in Toronto on, I believe it was the first Saturday of the year. I know it is. So that's October 3rd, if I'm not mistaken. And don't have their own home opener until October 8th. The Sens did have another kind of cheeky Twitter post on Thursday saying the Lars Eller return game is October 21st. He's now gone to the Panthers. Tongue in cheek. It's not the Brady Tkachuk return game. It's the Lars Eller return game. So that was kind of fun. As a Leaf guy, probably like many fans of many other Canadian teams, I'm kind of over Leafs and Habs every opening night. I know it's supposed to be tradition, and it's not like I hate it, but it kind of takes the fun out of it, right? Like, a lot of people get really excited when the schedule gets released, mainly because it's this oasis of hockey news in the middle of July. But let's see, who's our first home game against? Who's our or season opener against? And, what's the schedule going to look like? I don't know, it's kind of boring to know every year. It'll be Leafs and Habs on opening night, either in Toronto or Montreal, and that's the only question is who's hosting it. It's Toronto this year, so that's kind of dull. But I understand it. They want their big markets in here. They're also opening up on opening night. I'm saying the word opening a lot. The Carolina Hurricanes and Florida Panthers will play at 5 p.m. Eastern. And I like this a lot. I think a lot of people I saw talk about this should be the first Carolina Hurricanes home game of the year, is when they hoist their banner. Because Florida was always their villain, right? That team they couldn't get past. Well, Florida goes down. They're horribly injured. They're out of gas after 3 straight trips to the Stanley Cup final. And all of a sudden, Carolina bursts through. So why not start that story right away? On opening night, here's the defending champion Carolina Hurricanes. Oh, and by the way, Darth Vader is back. And, you're staring across the ice at the Florida Panthers right away on opening night. I think that's a home run to start the season. There's also a bunch of Monday games that are being played in the afternoon. And I saw a couple teams tweeting out their schedule, and you can kind of see, because nobody's got a bunch of them, but almost everybody has at least one of them, where you kind of get this, what is that? Did I just see my team plays on Monday at 2 o'clock in the middle of November? Or, middle of March? Why are the Ducks doing that? Or why are the Lightning doing that? And so then, just by chance, I'm clicking around on stuff, and I read the league itself put out a press release, as it does every year, with the full schedule, right? As opposed to each team putting out their own schedule. And I guess the idea here is that they're trying to do this for Europe to get into prime time on Monday nights. So I don't believe it's every Monday, but it is a lot of Mondays. And it won't be the same teams, obviously, every week. But you should expect probably one of your home games, maybe one of your road games. Like, this will happen to you once or twice throughout next season, where you're going to be looking around and all of a sudden, where the fuck's my team next game? And you're going to look up, it's going to be at 2 o'clock on a Monday afternoon. And it's going to be weird, and it's going to take you a minute, like it always does for me when you see weird stuff like this, and you go looking for, I think Vegas always has a Friday afternoon game at some point in the first half of the season. I can never remember when it is. This is why it always sneaks up. But it's like a holiday in Nevada and nowhere else. And so they have a Friday afternoon game. And if you happen to be their opponent that day, you're like, what the fuck is going on? Why are we playing at 3 o'clock on a Friday? That's going to happen a bunch. Not necessarily a bunch to you, but a bunch throughout the league, where you're going to look around and see that a game has already started. For the Senators, it's early on in the season. It got people initially a little confused because it's the Monday before the Sens are supposed to go to Germany anyway. So people were like, well, do I have the Germany dates wrong? No, that just is the thing. And it makes some sense, because then you can leave early that night and fly over to Germany. But yeah, then the Sens will be playing a couple of afternoon games anyway once they get to Germany by the time you factor back in the time zone. So it's a weird one for them. I laughed when I saw the Leafs are hosting theirs on Monday the 21st. They always do something like that. They call it the next gen game, which has now kind of started to spread across the league. But it's the one where they always have a bunch of kids in the stands, and some of them are doing like play-by-play or PA or rink announcing or whatever else. They try and get a bunch of kids involved in the broadcast. And it's almost always right before Christmas, right? It's supposed to be while kids are out on school break. The Leafs will play a game at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, more accessible for taking young kids to in terms of timing. And then they can kind of pack up and go on Christmas break a little bit early. That's the part they never mention. It's always, we do it for the kids. We do it for the kids. But it's almost always their last game before Christmas, and it gets everybody a 3-hour head start on getting their flights out to wherever they want to be. And another interesting wrinkle in the schedule this year makes that extra relevant, is that the league is taking a shorter break than usual, this time just the 23rd to the 25th as their Christmas break. And they will play games on Boxing Day, which they normally don't. They kind of take, Boxing Day is the day where teams sort of start to get back together and fly to wherever they have to play on the 27th. The reason this one's noteworthy a little bit to me is I wonder what, if anything, this does to the World Juniors. Because they have always had to go up against the NHL throughout the majority of the tournament, throughout the body of the tournament and the playoffs certainly the league is back up in full swing. But Boxing Day has kind of been the realm of the World Juniors, right? They build all their marketing around it. Canada's first game, whatever's going to happen there, wherever's hosting it, whether it's going to be an evening game or an afternoon game, depends on the time zones and all that kind of stuff. But they're going to have competition this time. And I do wonder if it can hurt the World Juniors at all, this notion that, my NHL team's back anyway. Canada hasn't done very well the last few years. I do wonder if having that one-day head start gets everyone's attention again. There's no other hockey on. You're hungover from Christmas, or you're stuffed from Christmas, or whatever your deal is. You're still blowing through pies and cakes and desserts and whatever else your family might be into, dinner leftovers, and the World Juniors comes on. You're like, oh shit, I forgot. And you get right into it, and it hooks you right away. And then it kind of drags you through whether your NHL team is playing or not. Maybe it needs that first day head start. It wasn't always like this. The World Junior used to start on Christmas Day, but I can't see them going back to that. But it's been a long time since the World Juniors didn't have Boxing Day to themselves. So we'll see whether or not this has any kind of impact on the tournament, or whether the two can coexist harmoniously. Before we wrap up here, MLB also released their full schedule on Thursday, which was weird. It sort of feels, as I said on Twitter, it sort of feels like you got that kind of slack-ass half-miler student, which would be the NHL in this case, that's trying to finish their schedule at the last possible second because they start the preseason in basically 2 months. And then you got Major League Baseball, who is 8 months away from having a season, and they're the nerdy student who did their assignment 8 months early, even though, and it gets a little dark, there's a good chance school's going to be canceled that day, right? I have very little confidence that Major League Baseball will be starting its 2027 season on time with the Armageddon they're heading towards with their collective bargaining agreement. And so far this, I don't know, sounds like hard line for a salary cap and not to accept one. So we'll see what that's all going to look like. But the fact that one league dropped theirs today when their season starts in 2 months and another dropped theirs today when it starts in 8. And I'll be honest with you, I got kind of swayed on this a little bit as the day went on and I was reading about it. At first, like I said, I thought MLB looked diligent. Good for you guys, man. Got the schedule out. People can start now if they want, planning their vacations next year. I could be wrong and everyone's experience is a little different, but I think baseball, more than a lot of sports, draws travel, right? Over the summer vacation, let's go down to Wrigley, let's go down to Fenway, that kind of stuff. Not to say it doesn't happen in other places, right? People will strike out and go to their NFL stadium, or, I don't know, travel to Vegas to see their NHL team, or whatever it might be. But it just feels anecdotally like baseball has that pinned down a little more. And I kind of liked that, okay, we have our shit together. Networks can start to pick this apart too. Which of these games are going to be Apple TV games? Which of these games are going to be fucking whatever else games? But most importantly, all our partners, all our teams, everybody can start to put together what they need almost a year in advance. To me, that made it feel like they really had their shit together. And I read somebody in the replies, and normally you guys know my advice, especially on a day like this. Don't go in the replies. But people, I wouldn't say people were unreasonable. People weren't crazy. People weren't shitting all over it. But people did say, you got to wait until the season is over. Because what I just mentioned a few minutes ago about the start of the NHL schedule having the Carolina Hurricanes and the Florida Panthers being fucking brilliant, baseball can't do anything like that right now. You have no idea what the final pennant races are going to be. You have no idea who's going to eliminate who in the playoffs. You have no idea who's won the World Series, so what team you would want to go first to kind of celebrate that championship at home. There is certainly a positive element to having it done and being on top of it and getting it all out there this early. But yeah, I did start to come around to this notion that it does rob you of the idea of being able to have a little fun with this, right? So just something to think about, and there's no perfect answer to it. This is largely an opinion thing, I would imagine. But, two sides to every coin. But it was interesting to watch them both come out on the same day. And as far as look, we're not going to go through 162 fucking games of 2020-27 schedule, and you got over 60 games of 2026 to go. But it's not a nice schedule. Look, you have to play who you have to play every year. And you can make an argument that it doesn't really matter when. Like, you're going to have to face them all anyway. You might as well just put your head down and get to work. But the Blue Jays open up on March 25th, a Thursday, at Yankee Stadium. So there's a lovely how do you do right out of the gate. And their home opener is against the Seattle Mariners, another very good team that you've developed a bit of a rivalry with. That will be just about a week later. What would that be? April 5th. And then, it ebbs and flows like every other baseball season. Your July is insanely easy. And then your September, like I said, it looks here a lot like your start of the season, your early March, or your March and your early April are really tough. But your September is insanely tough. And the Blue Jays are going to finish the season in Houston, in Los Angeles against the Dodgers. And you're not getting the cheap one. You're not getting the Angels. Then up to Seattle, again, another really good division-leading team that will be contending for a playoff spot, if we can predict out more than a year. A team that will expect to be contending based on what we know of them now. So you got Houston, Dodgers, Mariners on the road. Come home, Yankees, Rays to finish the season. I have no idea what the Blue Jays are going to look like next year. I have no idea what the Blue Jays are going to look like next month, to be fucking honest with you, after the trade deadline. But they're going to try and contend next year. They're all in. They're spending. And you're going to finish your season, Houston, Dodgers, Mariners, Yankees, Rays. Fuck you. You'd better have taken care of your shit early on, got yourself comfortable in a playoff spot, because that sucks. It's a rough schedule. And like I said, it's all optics, I guess. Like, you're going to play these teams eventually. But does it have to be when we're just trying to get our feet underneath us at the beginning of the year? Does it have to be while we might be fighting for our lives at the end of September? You can't roll through Yankee Stadium or Dodger Stadium in June while you're out there doing your thing. Nah. Fuck me, man. Tough look. So, I mean, I guess we all licked our chops when we saw that the Jays were opening their season this year with the fucking Rockies and White Sox, and who was the other soft cock in there that ended up beating us up? Anyway. Love it. You never know what you're going to get, I guess, right? So that's some schedule talk. That's summer content, baby. That's what we've got here. The Blue Jays, thank God, will be firing back up on Friday. They need to get their asses in gear. Probably need to go like 10-5, like 10-6 here before the deadline to justify being buyers. Even then, I'm not sure I'd do it. I probably wouldn't sell if you got out on a streak like that and got yourself back in the mix, back around 500. Just don't think I've seen enough this year to justify buying, but who knows? We'll see where it goes. But at least, point being, there will be baseball again. There will be sports happening again, and we won't have to talk about schedule releases perhaps next week on the podcast. That should just about do it for today. Try and stay safe out there if you are in one of those areas where it's incredibly smoky. Perhaps more importantly, if you're listening to us closer to the areas that are actually being impacted by the fires, certainly be safe. We're wishing you all the best. To the rest of you, do your best not to get into an argument with the Americans that are currently trying to blame Canada and whatever else. Like I made that bet off the top. the president's going to say something. It's probably going to get worse, the online discourse. And I'll be honest with you, I struggled hard all day Thursday to ignore it and to stay out of it as you're seeing some of the dumbest shit you've ever read in your life come across my screen. One guy did drag me in. I give advice. I can't say I always follow it, but try and avoid it. Like look, even here, I think it's almost impossible for us to understand, let alone what the Americans are trying to process and failing. It is literally, like, depending on where you're at, 900 million to 1.2 billion acres. Billion with a fucking B acres of boreal forest. And it's just out there, man. It's not alongside the Highway 400 going up towards Huntsville. And if it was, Doug Ford would have taken care of it a long time ago, since it's near his cottage. It's just fucking out there in the middle of nowhere. There's no roads. There's no highways to the overwhelming majority of where this stuff is happening. You're not taking your little fire truck up there and putting it out. You're not taking your little tractor trailers like they do down in the U.S. to some of these places and clear out the underbrush. It's billion acres. It sucks. And there probably is more that Canada could have done. But you cannot just go put this out with boreal fires like this. Even if you can get your water planes up there, half of it burns so hot these days that most of the water evaporates before it even hits the top of the forest. It's a mess. It's a bad situation. I don't blame Americans for being frustrated. I don't blame Canadians for being frustrated and a little alarmed. And we're not even the ones living near it. But you just can't argue with people who don't have the fact. Like I said online the other day, it remains incredibly problematic that the least knowledgeable amongst us are the loudest amongst us. It's just not worth engaging in the conversation because they don't have the capacity. The Americans do a very good job of what they call forest management, but they don't have the extreme areas that we do. You can get close enough on one of the interstates or other back highways through Colorado or wherever the hell else they're trying to clear out. And you can go in there and you can burn off some underbrush and you can keep it under control. But that just is not reality in this country, man. And frankly, I'm not smart enough to be out here trying to explain this. But I do understand how hard it is to fight a fire when you can't get to the fire. And so it gets tough. And like my understanding, half of this isn't even just like the smoke. Like lots of forest fires occur. And when there's some smoke and it gets out there and whatever else, but the environment's kind of used to that. My understanding is that half of this problem now is that it's the floor of these boreal forests, which used to be damp and it would cool off at night and it would rain. And in these forests, it would take forever for the snow to melt, right? The snowpack, whatever. So the ground would always be damp. And now it just burns right down to the bottom of the tree and the ground keeps burning because there's so much, now dry material there. And I guess it's burning off that peat that's creating this awful, awful smoke. And that just never used to happen. These forests worldwide have a natural cycle of catching fire and regenerating themselves and using that as, soil for the next round of trees and whatever else is going on up there. But it never used to be able to burn off the ground. And I guess my understanding is it's that stuff that is now burning on the floor of the forest that is creating this awful, awful smoke. So I have no idea how long that's going to carry on. I can't imagine the fires are going out anytime before the end of the summer. But maybe the wind changes and the smoke dissipates a little bit. I don't know. Point being, don't listen to idiots on the internet and get in a big debate with them on Twitter like I fell into. And frankly, don't listen to me on the internet. I'm pretty sure what I just said is correct, but so was the asshole I debated with on Twitter today. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm an idiot. There's no maybe about that. But with all that out of the way, this idiot will say goodbye. Hope you all have a great weekend. Hope you all have a safe weekend. And the next time you hear from me, I will be lakeside. That may be Monday morning. No promises at this point. But we will be back on the microphone at some point early next week. So stay tuned for that. My name is Matt Robinson. Thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.